Edition of HCISD Spotlight. I'm Gabi Muniz, and with us today in the studio is Mark and Kathy Dittman from Maggie's House, Children's Advocacy Center. Thank you so much for being here and letting us have you here. And so I know that you're here to talk about the walk that you are having. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
It's actually a 5K run or 1 mile walk. It's going to be held on Saturday, April 7th at Keys Academy, which is 2809 on 7th Street, North 7th Street, just off the loop here in Harlingen. And the funds that are going to be raised by this walk and run go to two different entities that are working on child abuse prevention. One is Maggie's House, the Cameron County Children's Advocacy Center, located in San Benito. They also have Monica's House in Brownsville. They're the same entity. And the other entity is the HCISD Teen Parenting Program, which works with young parents within the school system to help them finish their degree and be sure that they get launched onto success, even with having kids at a young age. And child abuse prevention is part of that, helping them to deal with just the difficulties of parenting.
So can you tell me a little bit on how you're linked to Maggie's House and what it's about?
Well, we had two kids. We had a little 6-year-old boy and a 2-year-old daughter named Maggie. And I worked seasonally. I was in agriculture, and so we needed someone to watch the kids. So we found somebody that we thought was pretty good, but apparently not, because she murdered my daughter. So at the age of 2 years old, my daughter's on life support and ultimately is pulled off and dies from massive head trauma. And so that threw us into the world of child abuse. And we do present at different conferences and whatnot. And once the crime has been committed, then it's no longer the parent's case. It belongs to the state of Texas in our case. And it's not a very rewarding experience to try to get justice for your child. So our push is for the prevention and awareness of child abuse, so people can avoid having this in their own house. Because once a child is abused, whether sexually or through neglect or murdered, you can never put that child back together again. And through prevention, the child has the prospect of a happy life that they deserve. So in our case, once the crime has been committed against the child, Maggie's House is a place where outcries are investigated, and the child's story is told once on videotape in a child-friendly environment where they are able to describe what has happened to them, this criminal act. And then that videotape is taken and shared with law enforcement, social services, as well as the state of Texas, the DA's office. So the ideal situation is the child never has to repeat what has happened to he or her again. It's done. Instead of being re-victimized over and over. So what did he do? Where did he do that? What was this all about? And on the other side of teen parenting is when we were married, we waited to have kids. And we were more mature. We were in our late 20s and still terrified at the prospect of being charged with this baby. That once you're in a hospital and you give birth to the child, you push a button and somebody comes running to help you. You get home, that doesn't work anymore. You can rely on grandma or grandpa and this kind of thing, but basically you are it. So the idea of, remember when I was in high school, I don't know that I would have handled being a father all that well. As it is, as an adult, I wonder myself still, because you always want to do what's best for your child. And I failed my daughter. She would have been 22 years old November the 6th, but she never had a chance to fulfill her potential. I failed her. But what I try to do is to use the story of her brutal murder as a, I would say a warning, but at least an option for parents that they might not know they have, as things can happen to you. A friend of mine once told me, if something can happen to anybody, it can happen to you. And things can always get worse. Because as soon as my daughter was declared dead, taken off for autopsy, my son, who was 6, was removed from our custody. So we lost 2 kids in the second week of January with a house full of Christmas toys. And if I can express that to the audience, is that there's a feeling there that you cannot go any lower. And I would put myself through this every year, as often as I have to prevent that from happening to some other family. That's why this walk is important, for the awareness and for the prosecution of those that harm our children.
How do you think that people can get involved in both Maggie's House and in the run?
Well, for the fundraiser, you can get registered at Footworks here in Harlingen. Also, you can get online to the website for the Cameron County Children's Advocacy Center, or Maggie's House, and you can register online there. I believe the registration is $25 for adults and $10 for kids, but all the details are on there. If you can get together a team of 10, then there's a little bit of a discount there. We've got awards for the top 10 male and female runners for the 5K. And we've got a lot of other activities that are going to be going on there in the morning. So it's going to be a fun, kind of a child-centered environment. It's going to be a fun thing to do on a Saturday morning. They're going to have hot dogs and some other things like that. So it's basically registering either online or at Footworks is how you can get involved.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I appreciate your giving us this opportunity to speak, because if it doesn't happen in your house, you may be called to be a juror. And if you are a juror, please serve, and please listen to the evidence, and please do what's right to bring some sort of order to this. But April is Child Abuse Awareness Month in the real world, but in my world it's pretty much all the time. Because you'll see things at HEB, you'll see different things that don't look right, and the inner voice will tell you when it's not right, and I ignored my inner voice, and I don't do that anymore.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us today. That does it for this edition of HCISD Spotlight. Be sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, I'm Gabi Muniz.